HBO, which is owned by Time Warner, a parent company of CNN. Last night, Maher apologized on his show, saying, quote, "I did a bad thing." He then invited his guests to weigh in. Listen to actor and rapper Ice Cube's emotional response.
You know, it's a word that has been used against us. It's like a knife, man. And you can use it as a weapon or you can use it as a tool. It's been used as a weapon against us by white people. And we're not going to let that happen again by nobody. When I hear my homie say it don't feel like venom. When I hear a white person say it feel like that knife stabbing me, even if they don't mean it. But I think this is a teachable moment, not just to you, but to the people that's watching right now. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'm not.
I think the people watching right now are saying that point has been made.
Not by me.
Okay.
You saw CNN political commentator Simone Sanders sitting on that panel last night. She was nice enough to join us in the last hour, and she made it clear to Maher that she agreed with Ice Cube. Watch.
We know you apologize, but in the context, you essentially, by referring to yourself as a house anything, you attempted to whitewash who was really enslaved in the house. You know, as a white person in America, you would have been the master, the slave owner, not someone enslaved in the house. And it was mostly black women who were enslaved in the house, who were raped, who were beaten daily, day in and day out. They endured physical and mental abuse. And so for a lot of people in America, that was like a slap in the face to black America, particularly to black women.
Simone, how important was it for you to give Bill Maher your 2 cents and to make this a teachable moment?
I thought it was really important for me personally, and I am grateful that the show also thought it was important and gave myself and others space and time to give our remarks. I think that we are living in really polarizing times, and we still have yet to grapple with the issue of race in America. And because of that, whenever the subject comes up, it can be very, very tense. And I know Bill Maher understood he was wrong last week when he used the racial slur. He apologized he apologized after the show last week and again on that stage last night. But it was more than just the word. People in America, especially black people, are dealing with, battling down with the white supremacy and systemic racism. And I thought it was really, really important that we put some context on there, that we brought black women into the conversation, because sometimes we can get left out. So I was glad I was on that stage last night to offer that perspective.
Now, he seemed very uncomfortable during portions of that conversation. Did you get a chance to chat with him about the way that he felt about the whole night off air?
So we took some photos after the show, and of course we did a post-overtime show for the internet. And look, Bill was happy everybody came on. He thanked us all for coming. He thanked us for our perspectives. And I believe he heard us. I mean, if someone was sitting there telling me that, kind of reading me my rights over something that I said, I too might be a little tense. But I am glad we were able to have the conversation. And I hope not only my words, but Ice Cube's words and Dr. Dyson's words really stuck with Bill Maher, and he takes this into account the next time. He is an ally in this fight. Bill Maher has been on the front lines for a whole lot of things, but even when you're on the front lines, sometimes you have to tap your brothers and sisters in the struggle and let them know when they've crossed the line, and that's what we did last night.
Now, Simone, I have to ask you this. For Bill Maher, it was a teachable moment. There are other comedians out there, not African Americans. Michael Richards comes to mind, Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais, who have said that word, and the consequences have been kind of all over the map. From your estimation, is there a double standard as to who can say that word, even in or out of the context of comedy?
Let me be clear. I do not think the N-word has a place in jokes and comedy. I do not think white people in America should be using the N-word. And frankly, I don't think black people should be using it either.
Senior media correspondent and the host of Reliable Sources, Brian Stelter, is back with us now. Brian, Maher kind of switched it up yesterday. He didn't interview his panel as much as he took questions from them. How effective do you think it was as an apology
I think it probably forestalled more calls for him to be suspended or for his show to be canceled because he was airing this out rather forthrightly on his own program for the better part of an hour. But he did seem uncomfortable at times, right. Which is maybe a reality for a white comedian who he says was just acting in the moment, just reacting to something a guest said last week. He had apologized the next day, but really it was important, I think, to talk about this on his program, to hear a variety of guests discussing it, including Simone. And then at the end of the hour, his former Republican Congressman guest, David Jolly, said at some point people do have to accept apologies if they're made in good faith and move on from there. So that was sort of the closing note of the segment, which I think Maher appreciated, that he was having one of his guests say we should accept this apology and move on. But no doubt, this is a very troubling controversy for Bill Maher. It speaks to the world of comedy and, more importantly, to race relations. Bill Maher was deeply uncomfortable with some of the conversations he was hearing on his own show.
If you think, or do you think that if he had been perhaps a conservative commentator, he would still have a show?
Well, he's not suspended. He continues on his program. He is certainly we should be clear, like he's an anti-Trump liberal. Right. And Simone was saying he's an ally in many ways, in terms of the progressive movement in the country. I think if anybody said what Maher said in the context, meaning almost randomly, he was reacting to a guest who said, "Come to Nebraska, work with us in the fields."
Right. He made an obscure remark.
That's what causes Maher then to say the N-word. Right. Now, I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze Maher, but this was something he says happened in the moment, something that happened very suddenly. He said, quote, "The comic mind goes to a weird place sometimes. It doesn't matter that it wasn't said in malice. That's why I apologize and I do again." But he's essentially saying comedians are weird people. Comedians, they're going for laughs, sometimes at any expense, and he went too far trying to get a laugh. Now, why he thought it might be funny is a separate matter. I think, so my point is that context here is crucial. He wasn't scripting this. It wasn't something he was doing, he says, intentionally.
Mark Lamont Hill was on earlier today, and he made the distinction between somebody like Bill Maher and somebody like Michael Richards, who was going after somebody in the crowd. Michael Richards has not recovered after that incident. Right. Do you think Bill Maher can move forward from this in a way where he keeps his presence?
Yeah, his fans love him, and you could hear that on the program, the cheering from his audience. At some points, almost you could hear people almost saying, "We forgive you. We're on your side." So yes, I don't think Maher's in any long-term trouble. He's intentionally provocative, controversial on purpose. But it brings up this issue of how comedians sort of perform,
push the envelope,
where their minds go. And although this wasn't related to Trump, we had the Kathy Griffin thing recently as well, which he was bringing up. Another case of a comedian. I think it was a widespread agreement that she went too far. There are, I think, useful conversations to be had, especially in this social media age, about what's acceptable. And I agreed with Simone and with Ice Cube that this was a teachable moment, not just for Bill Maher, but for his viewers.
Absolutely. Brian Stelter, thank you again. You can catch more of Brian tomorrow on his show, Reliable.